And hello, Liberty Chess Kids. This is Mr. Konishek again, here to analyze a game from our online chess tournaments. And it's really great to see some of you guys online playing during this school closure. I hope you guys are enjoying playing and learning. And again, one of the best ways to learn is by learning and reviewing your games and learning from your mistakes. So in this game here, this game was between PastWildPenny and WildMadCrow. And PastWildPenny is in white and WildMadCrow in black. And I'll just say there's lots to learn from this game. So both players, they start off pretty good with developing pieces towards the middle. Black plays pawn to d6. This one kind of limits your bishop here. It doesn't give much room for the bishop. So another move might have been just moving out the knight first, or at least getting this bishop out first, and then giving you a chance to move a pawn out or doing something with that. So again, d6 here is very limiting and kind of keeps your pieces back when you really want to push them forward. Here, a mistake from white for two reasons. One, we already moved this knight. Knight was moved out already in the first move, and then to touch the piece again actually takes away from the other pieces, takes away development from the other side. So, and also it's just you're hanging out your knight here. This should have been an easy take for black, but that actually didn't happen. So in the future, just develop a knight, developing pieces, getting them out there rather than moving a piece for a second or third time. So black didn't see it and just, again, very tentative, plays a move kind of just back in its own territory. You can see black is just kind of backed up in its own territory. White moves what we call a flank pawn, a pawn on the side, and again, not recognizing that this knight is hanging. Black pushes the pawn up when, again, this knight was hanging, missed that, both players. So we want to focus on, or we really want to pay attention on what's going on the whole board. But both players seem to be focused on the middle here. Moving the bishop again. Again, when these pieces are not developed, I could see wanting to put a pin on here, pinning the knight to the king. Another move would have been just protecting this knight here, getting the knight safe, or putting pressure here and forking the knight and the bishop. So that could have been an option there. Black takes. This knight is still hanging. Castle. Knight is still hanging out here. Bishop is brought out into the middle of the board, pointed here. The knight is still hanging. White captures and they trade pieces. The knight is still hanging here for both players. Not seeing this. Queen out. I can see wanting to clear up space here, but again, this knight is just still hanging. So even a move like this protects the knight. The queen couldn't take that. here bringing the knight out, wanting to castle, but missing the fact that that the knight was hanging here for white. Bishop out to a3. I guess wanting to trade here, or pointing at a diagonal here, or wanting to move this bishop out of the way. It's a trade, and which forces white's knight to the side of the board. Bishop moved again, and we haven't really and black hasn't finished their development, hasn't finished castling. Queen is brought out to c4. Black's moving in open to the open file when really should be castling and not forgetting to do that. White's putting pressure back onto this bishop, and white's getting very active here with the queen. There was a pawn hanging here, or I'm sorry, a pawn hanging there. Moving ahead in the game here, there's a pawn here for white, could have taken off the board. Black goes ahead and takes a pawn. Another move could have been taking a central pawn here. And both sides here kind of looking at their own play and not really worried about what their opponent's doing. Let's see here. I see black wanting to put the rook centered here onto the d file and wanting to set up an attack. Another move could have been just putting the queen here, putting pressure on e3 check, and forcing white to have to make a move to protect the king, right? Could have protected with the rook here. See here, white moving the queen, an unprotected pawn, missing the unprotected pawn there. Here, black really putting pressure on this d file. It's a good idea. Another idea could have been to bring the rook on over and backing this queen out. Knight to the middle of the board, wanting to putting pressure on this queen here, but it's taken off the board here. Queen, not sure why this move was made, bringing the queen in. Tough to have the queen in by herself here. And usually if you're bringing the queen in for an attack, you need some cooperating pieces. You need some pieces to help. But you can see here the queen is just kind of by herself in this position. Black moves a pawn on the side of the board. There was a free bishop or free rook available for black. Okay, so here you see white wanting to get the queen out of the way here, which would have been a mistake, with queen e3 check, and really making things difficult for for white here. If the king gets out of check here, oh, that would have been check. And then pressure here. Game would be just about over, and I think it just about is. Oh, after rook d1, and finally checkmate here. So so both players are playing pretty fast, and mistakes made on both sides, and this will just come with experience. So this will just come with playing. Going back to our game here, black has a pretty good attack here, putting some pressure on. On the escape here because of the rooks. You can see here, black actually was willing to sacrifice his queen to go for it all. So queen takes d1, rook takes back. And I think black had the intention of playing the rook up to take away and give a checkmate. White was able to get out of it here. White escapes here, and this could have been checkmate. So black plays rook to d4, missing rook e2, checkmate. Game should have been over right here. But black misses here. Queen comes in, and black gives away a rook. And from here, really difficult for black to gain any momentum here because of the sacrificed queen. White goes ahead and tries to push this pawn up, playing it forward here. So here, hard to imagine that white would give away this game here. Let's see what happens here. It ends up being a stalemate like this, and kind of a sloppy game by both players. Something that I know both players will improve upon as they play. But let's back it up to when white actually promotes. So was promoted, black moves back, and really you could think of both of these queens as a rook roll. So obviously you couldn't move. Well, you could just move your queen here, and you got two queens protecting, and really it's just a we call it the queen roll here. Instead of two rooks, you got two queens, and this would have been checkmate. So better luck to both players next game. Really interesting game to look at because of the number of missed opportunities.